You're listening to I Love It When, and I'm your host, Mo. I'm a speaker, coach, and connector. You're in the right place if you're looking for some inspiration and you're ready to truly embrace who you are. My intention with this podcast is to help you see that you are so much more powerful than you realize. Welcome back to another episode of I Love It When. I'm your host, Mo, and today we're going to have a conversation with a good friend of mine, Melissa Weidling from Bellingham, Washington. Melissa is the CEO and founder of Thistle, which is a business that she's now had for about 8 months. She is an energy alchemist. And the reason I'm having Melissa on is because she has a level of intuition, compassion, and a perspective that I really want more people to be exposed to. Melissa and I have been friends for about 7 years, and over these last 7 years, I have seen her take so many different leaps in her life, from one job to being an entrepreneur at a whole nother level in a whole different industry and field. And each time she does so with such courage and true surrender, a sweet surrender, as she puts it. We talk a little bit about intuition today. We talk about her journey with religion and faith. We talk about these different leaps that she's taken, and she shares some tips on what has helped her to take these leaps, because oftentimes we can get stuck in those feelings of fear and not wanting to leave a relationship or leave a job or leave a situation because of these feelings that arise in our body. And I'm really, really proud of where Melissa is. She has attended 2 of my retreats as well, and she talks a little bit about the impact that the retreat had on her and the messages that she got when she was at those experiences that have helped her to push through to the next level. So check out her website, butterflythistle.com, and I highly recommend signing up for a session with Melissa. She does human design readings, and then she can also offer energy healings, and she is a coach and a consultant for anybody in the real estate world. She was in real estate for 10 plus years and ran a team of her own. So I highly recommend reaching out to her and checking out her work. She is a beautiful, beautiful human, and I'm really excited for you to hear more about what she does and then her story here on the podcast. So let's get into it. I want to start off by just having you share a little bit about who you are and what you do now.
I'm Melissa Weidling, and I'm here in Bellingham, Washington. Currently, I rest. I'm recovering from burnout. I spent the entire first half of my life, really, I started working when I was 14 or 15. And so my entire career has been about service to others, though, first in executive support, and then the last 10 years in real estate in one form or another. And so I started as an assistant and eventually left that team once it was no longer in alignment with me. And I began my own thing and had a transaction coordination business of my own. And, took a big leap and realized that though I was definitely seeing success, I didn't think it was the success that I wanted. I wanted to redefine success and have that mean something that is in alignment with my soul, something that brings me joy and satisfaction while I'm serving others, rather than something that just is making me money. Because what good is a pile of money if I'm working 12, 13, 14 hours a day,
Yes.
and I'm stressed out and I can't take a vacation to go spend it. I mean, I think the last real vacation I took for a period of time was 5 years ago to Hawaii. And that's not enough. I think that's not enough.
Yes. I think I agree with you.
Yeah. So I'm right now, I am entering the world of energy healing as an energy alchemist, which to me just means the ability to shift the energy from one thing to another. And I am doing that through human design, through EFT tapping, through use of herbalism and sound healing. And I am letting myself finally dive headfirst into all of the things that have always lit me up. I've spent a significant part of my life trying to be very controlled and found that I had a pretty rigid sense of things. And this next half of my life is about expanding all of that into what if and bigger and more.
Oh my God. I just want to go like, yes, yes, yes. I love the way that you describe that. And when we were talking today about what are we going to talk about, you had said something about the sweetness of surrender. And I just said, oh my God, that's the title of the episode. I'm writing this down because that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here today was I want all the listeners and the audience to get a chance to kind of have a sneak peek behind the curtain of some of the conversations that you and I have, because I very much value our friendship and how it's grown and changed over the years. And one of the things I love about you is your curiosity, your open mind, and your willingness to step into fear and like sit next to it and lean into it and learn more about it and help to dissolve it so that you can move into new arenas. And I've seen you do this repeatedly since I first met you. And I looked back at my notes because I had to. And I know the first retreat that you came to was in 2019, but I know I met you like 2018, 17. And so over the years, I think you and I have just come to realize how aligned we are in so many different ways. And so I'm really excited for everybody to get a chance to hear the way that you perceive the world, because it's so beautiful and it's so just always hope filled. The way I think that you bring things to light and the way that you have these, as you call them, sweet utterings, or what are they called? I mean, that's what I call them.
Spontaneous utterings of truth.
Thank you. I call them sweet, spontaneous utterings. I think you and I are both very much leaning into this really like true version of ourselves, which for you and I both, I mean, if we're talking about dipping a little bit into human design, being a projector and I'm a reflector, it's very much different from how a lot of the world operates. And so I've just really appreciated your perspective and I'm excited for everybody to get a chance to see how your brain works a little bit. And so we're just going to like talk about a couple different topics today to begin with, but I wanted to start talking a little bit about religion and faith, because that's something that you and I have also really aligned on. And I wonder if you could just share a little bit about your journey in the beginning of your life and kind of what the foundation was.
Yeah. I grew up in a very religious home, a beautiful religion. I was taught very early on about the oneness of God, the oneness of humanity, the oneness of religion. I was taught about the validity of other faiths. I was taught about the responsibility of independently investigating truth for myself, and that onus is all on me. The equality of men and women, beautiful, beautiful teachings. The challenge for me came in that there was a huge discrepancy between who we were proclaiming to be and then who my family was the moment the car door hit and we were headed home. And the reality is that the discrepancy was so large between my religious life and my home life that it just felt very disjointed. Like I couldn't ever find a place of authenticity because what I wanted to strive for, what I was striving for, there was no bridge to get there from where I actually was. And, you know, everybody has different coping mechanisms and crutches that they use. And sometimes that can be religion. And I think that religion was used in that way unintentionally in my home. And as I grew up and there were things about my life that were no longer going to become or remain sustainable and allow me to stay in that religion, it was, gosh, the most challenging, the greatest heartbreak of my life was determining whether or if I could let go. You know, beautiful teachings can still give you a very, very rigid sense of thinking and a structure that you have to shrink to fit within. And I truly believe that the difference for me is that I have now found my spirituality. and my
Mm-hmm.
relationship with God
Mm-hmm.
and the divine. And it is so precious to me. And it is the same as that core that I always felt,
Yeah.
but I am able to experience it much more profoundly and authentically outside of the structure of organized religion,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, I feel like the best case scenario was the religion I grew up in, which had assemblies to govern rather than clergy. And so I didn't have somebody telling me what to think. This made me really passionate about a lot of things and really willing to have or to push back and have conversations that maybe weren't the norm. And so I'm incredibly grateful. I wouldn't be who I was without growing
Mm-hmm.
up the way that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Am I remembering
but
correctly too that didn't you recently tell me that as a kid you would also talk and share about a lot of things that you believed? Like that just was just
mhm.
naturally part of who you were.
Yeah, got me into a lot of trouble. A lot of not here, Melissa, not now, Melissa, that kind of thing.
That is what I'm seeing come out more and more from you, the more you allow your true self out. And I freaking love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I just had to say that. Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think that it actually speaks to the growth that I've had because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was at the very first admin retreat of yours, or that I went to of
Yeah.
yours, where Gary John Bishop told us that we are all searching for our childhood incompletions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was one of them, you know, was trying to find an expression that felt real and sustainable and expansive rather than regimented at all in
Mm-hmm.
any sort of way. And I didn't have a lot of. I was very disempowered in my childhood, as a lot of us are. But I had a lot of those thoughts, and I would express them as much as I could. And I did get shushed quite a bit. And over time, you know, that taught me to be quiet and small
Mm-hmm.
and to not make too many waves. And um, I, mm, I just don't think there's that much to fear from
Mm-hmm.
hearing other thoughts and being open minded.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the things I was just checking in my notes that I wanted to make sure to say is that I think I've noticed a pattern since I started to dive more into what are truly my beliefs. And that journey for me started really back, gosh, in college, which is like 2000 to 2004. So it's been, yeah, gosh, 20 years now that I've really been studying and paying attention and
Mm-hmm.
observing
Mm-hmm.
and developing more strength in what I believe. And I've
Right.
noticed that when people question their belief system that they were raised with, if anything, it opens them up for more growth and expansion. It doesn't take
Right.
away. And I think that's really
Exactly.
like, I think that's what we're needing to embrace more as a society on a whole is this, that it's okay to question. It's actually
It's actually
necessary.
responsible. Yeah, I
Yes.
feel like it's responsible for you to understand what you believe and know why you believe it.
Yes.
It has to, otherwise, is it even real? You know, much like reckoning with religion versus spirituality, it took
Mm-hmm.
a lot for me to finally realize and accept that
Mm-hmm.
I had to give myself permission to let go, to move on, to recognize that
Mm.
this would still be, I could still be holy
Yeah.
and still express
Yeah.
my love for God through a different way.
Yeah.
Um, Even having been taught that I had the independent responsibility for this, you know, the dynamic between that teaching and what you're experiencing with human beings in a home
Mm-hmm.
kind of can conflict sometimes. So it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until I was well into adulthood that I had to do that reckoning.
And there's something
But I
here
think
that,
that it's,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's just about being able to look at what you believe and expand the idea. I remember hearing a quote once that talked about if you hold so tightly to your beliefs and hold them so close, you don't allow room for anything new.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it would be so sad to go through my whole life not experiencing or allowing myself to be curious about anything new. It doesn't mean that I have to change my beliefs
Yeah.
or that it won't just reinforce what I believe and why.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's my responsibility as a fellow human being um, to be able to stand on those beliefs
Mm-hmm.
and not have it be something that was handed to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're reminding me of there's almost like we're born with this natural instinct to protect who we were raised by. And so
Mm-hmm.
I know that for me too, there was this feeling as I was exploring my spirituality and religion, I almost felt bad for like,
Yeah.
what if I believe something different from what my parents taught me?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think they're bad people. So that makes me feel like bad for going against what they might believe or what they might not know. And I think there's just this natural human tendency to want to protect, no matter even how I've seen people who've had very traumatic childhoods protect their parents and people who hurt them
Exactly.
still. There's
Right.
that piece that came up for me. And then also there's this piece about embodying. So when you talk about when the car door closed and it wasn't happening at home the way it was proclaimed to be happening within the church, I definitely see that for a lot of people. I think the next step for a lot of people in their own faith is to actually embody what that means, not just talk the
Right.
words, but actually, like when you go home, when you're at the grocery store, when you're at the gas station, this is all spiritual. You are, if you're not
Yes.
demonstrating what you believe, then you're not fully embodying what you believe. I believe.
I think you're
So that
100% correct.
and that's
Yeah.
like that's the next level of healing, and the next level of learning and truly growing is when you can embody what you believe. So
Right.
you brought
Yep.
up a lot. You brought up a lot of topics there. So
As I want to do, as I am want to do.
and you do it so naturally. I want to talk a little bit about, so since I've known you these last 6 or 7 years, you've taken some really major leaps in life. And I'm curious if you can share, and you've started this a little bit already, but if you can share what pushed you to take some of those leaps as an example, and how did you get yourself to take that first step that
Sure.
for so many people I know when they think about leaving a job or they think about leaving a relationship or they think about any sort of change like that is so incredibly difficult because we can feel it, the pain in our body. I'm wondering how, if you can describe a little bit of what that was like for you, because
Well,
you've done that several times.
it, yes, that's true. And there's only so long you can bang your head up against a wall, right? And um, there, in each of these surges of growth, I guess, I it has just become too painful to stay where I was, living
Mm-hmm.
something that felt untrue,
Mm-hmm.
or in a place where I was no longer learning or no longer able to contribute something of value, where it just was not meshing any longer. Um, each of those times, it's that thing of it becomes so uncomfortable to remain a closed uh, rosebud that you just have to bloom.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember specifically coming home from the first admin retreat I went to and needing to have a real heart to heart with my team and
Mm-hmm.
how scary it was and how challenging it was and how healing it was
Mm-hmm.
for everyone in the room, to just lay some things on the table and say, we got to clear the air about some stuff. Let's just all get on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's just willing to make that first move and breach the discomfort, the reality is that we're all human beings and we truly do
Yes.
have compassion for one another and love for
Yeah.
one another, especially if you're on a team or in a family. And so if you can just get over that first hump, then I feel like that gives you something to work with. Now, did it solve the problem? No. Ultimately, it helped
Mm-hmm.
me get the clarity I needed to realize
Mm-hmm.
it was not the right place for me any longer.
Mm-hmm.
I had reached my leadership lid and there was nowhere
Mm-hmm.
else for me to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Can you describe
um,
that feeling of like in the moment when you brought that topic up at the team meeting? Like, what was the feeling once you got over that hump?
mm, um, well, there were multiple people in the room, and I would say that I felt from some people sort of a great opening in terms of like being willing to meet me where I was in that vulnerability, seeing how challenging it was to start this conversation. And then from others, a real resistance,
Mm-hmm.
and neither of those is right or wrong. It's all
Mm-hmm.
feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everything that we experience is for our growth. What am I meant to learn here? How is this going to serve me? What can I do with this? Who will this benefit? And so from there, it kind of became an interrogation of reality.
Yeah.
And
what did you feel in your body though, too?
oh God, I'm sweating. My stomach is on the floor. My hands are shaky, and I am just pushing through.
Yeah.
But also, my chest is warm. My
Mm-hmm.
heart is feeling open. I'm feeling a tenderness and a rawness at the same time for these people and myself, for these experiences that we'd been through and left on the table and attached stories to. And yeah, we really needed to move through some of those things and get to some resolution, or at least just some clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the clarity was, we do not understand one another.
Yes.
That is still clarity.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
So would you say that that feeling of warmth in your heart opening sounds a bit like relief too? Is that feeling something that you bring yourself back to help you do things in the future that require that same kind of, okay.
Exactly. That's a good point, because one thing that I have definitely learned is that the reflection piece is so important. Looking back and being able to say, this is where we were, this is where we are, and I wouldn't have gotten here without X happening, or without me doing Y, or, it's all, it reminds me of the next retreat I went to of yours in Sedona, where, Demir said to us, every single thing we experience, it has to be exactly what it is, in order for it to have the effect and for it to reach us in the way that is going to have the most impact. And I believe that with every ounce of my being. I believe that we are all here to walk each other home, to brush up against each other's edges and help each other get polished and shiny. And that we go further, faster together. If we can each be able to grab somebody's hand next to us or behind us or in front of us and pull or get pulled a little further down the line, then we all benefit. We all win.
Mm-hmm. So then jumping to this most recent leap of leaving the real estate industry, talk a little bit about how you decided to take that step and what it felt like.
Well, I blame you, Mo. No, but the reality is that having people around you who are like-minded, who can support you, who can challenge you, who can check in with you in such a loving but accountable way is so important. An example would be the retreat in Sedona. I wrote it off initially. Did I want to go? 100%. I wanted to go. I didn't see any way that I could make it.
Yeah.
And I met with you and Kristen, and we talked about some ideas for what might be possibilities. And I just surrendered. I said the big scary, yes, I'll commit to doing it, which started the ball rolling for ways to make it happen.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, I got a little bit out of my comfort zone, asked for some support from some people, explained what I was doing, and the means arrived for me to be able to make that trip and have this experience. And it was during this experience that I really had to admit to myself that even in my success, I really was just hustling for scraps of love, working so much, such long hours, so hard, never putting myself before the business. And that's just not sustainable. It doesn't work. And what was hurtful, painful for me about it is that it made me realize that it wasn't authentic. It wasn't truly me taking care of others. It wasn't that joyful giving from a spirit of generosity and energy. It was an obligation because I couldn't stop taking files. I just
Yeah. For those of you that are listening, she was a transaction coordinator, owned her own business, and you were working files for real estate agents from, I remember some days you would tell me you were working from 10 in the morning till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning
yeah,
occasionally. Like that was not
absolutely.
unusual. Yeah.
Not
Such
unusual
long
at all.
hours.
Definitely on the weekends. And, it finally affected my sleep, my
Mm-hmm.
health, my
Mm-hmm.
nervous system. And so it was the beginning of this year that I officially have stepped away from real estate for the most part. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
doing a tiny, tiny bit. Um, and I am surprised at how exhausted I still am. Now,
Mm-hmm.
part of that is because I don't have the same type of energy that everybody else has, kind of nodding
Mm-hmm.
back to human design.
Yeah.
Being a projector, I do not have sustainable energy that drives me all day long. What we do have is something called trauma drive, which is that you can keep yourself in a cycle of trauma. And because of that, you can push your body. But
Yeah.
the moment you have awareness of, oh, I don't have to do that any longer,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't have to push that hard.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you have that awareness, it's almost like a switch gets flipped, and
Yeah.
suddenly I did not have that drive any longer.
Yeah.
And so working on a few projects after letting go of my whole business, and it felt like they'd eat me alive. And it was very, very humbling because I expected myself to still be performing at this higher level, but
Mm-hmm.
my sense of drive and obligation wasn't there because I didn't have 30 people emailing me
Mm-hmm.
every hour. So yeah, I am still resting and letting myself get to uh, sort of a nervous center neutral is what I'm
Yes.
aiming
Get
for.
back to your like baseline to figure out what your baseline feels like.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah.
learning how to take naps, learning how to take walks, how to go outside once in a while. Like
It is
really
so,
just
isn't it bizarre to realize how, I mean, you and I talk about this often, and I love this conversation because I'm almost to my third year in starting my business. And I still feel like I'm just now really getting past that first initial burnout recovery period.
mm-hmm,
And part of
mm-hmm.
that has to do with unwinding all of the automatic, I was just on autopilot with so many things. Like
Yes.
I sit at my desk from 8:30 to 5:30. I only work during that time, but I do work some in the evenings or on the weekends. Like there's just so many things that I was automatically doing that I had to take time to recognize. It was
Right. Yeah.
frustrating, but also really a relief to realize how much power I actually had. And I think one of the other things I wanted to say was I don't know that you yet realize just how big of a thing you've done. But when you said to me after Sedona and after you started to let go of your business back in like October and then really fully in January, you had let go of this sense of fear around, oh my God, what am I going to do? Specifically around money and finances. And that's when I know, oh, she's there. She's gotten there.
Mm-hmm,
There's a new
mm-hmm.
level of peace that you just
Yeah.
found. Holy shit, this is exciting. Because I would share that
Yeah.
feeling with people and other people don't get it. They're not there yet if they haven't experienced it. And you whether it was subconscious or conscious, you made some sort of decision to like be done with that. And it's been
Yeah.
so cool to watch uh just different opportunities unfurl for you and your level of comfort grow more and more with who you're becoming. It's super
Thank
cool.
you. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. It's kind of an experiment with my human design to let things unfold the way that they're supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
and um, to wait until people see my value and ask for it at some point, invite me to work with them um, or for advice. Like I really am experimenting now with um, reserving the very small amount of energy that I have to invest it truly in things that bring me joy
Mm-hmm.
and that will do good in the world. Um, and let's be realistic. I was making a good amount of money and I'm making not much right now because
Mm-hmm.
I am resting a lot and I'm doing a lot of learning. I'm taking work here and there, but it takes a lot of commitment and
Mm-hmm.
surrender to
Mm-hmm.
know that I'll be taken care of, that I
Mm-hmm.
really have all that I need right now. And as long as I'm able to make my monthly bills,
Mm-hmm.
that's enough for now. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I know that there will be a time in the future where I've been through this transitional period and there's a different story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
But I have devoted so much of my life to worry, and
Yes,
it did not get me anywhere.
me too.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just can't do it any longer. I don't have any more energy left for it. Should I
Mm-hmm.
be worried about money? Probably. I certainly have debt and bills that, make me sweat a little bit, but um, there's a much more important story here. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
much more important sense of satisfaction and growth and presence and authenticity. And, I don't want for much as long as my bills are paid right now. And that's good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with that because it lets me really be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that has no price tag.
Yeah. Well,
I
you
had
bring up a
to,
really good. Oh, go ahead.
no, I didn't have room to express that part of myself for a number of reasons the most of my life. And so this is an entirely different experience. And it's
Mm-hmm.
making me question everything, what
Mm-hmm.
if,
Yes.
constantly reframing.
Yeah. Reframing, redefining. You made me think about, and I really do, I have this zero tolerance policy I've recognized because my body says we don't do that anymore. We don't accept that way of thinking. We don't. So you do have to kind of get to this point where you say like, I'm no longer going to take any more of that work because that does
Right.
not bring me joy. And if you're in that in between place, that's an okay place to be for anybody listening. That's kind of like, well, I have one foot in, one foot out. That's okay because that
Right.
means oftentimes you're in the midst of transitioning there. But when you develop that place, come from that place of like, I am done with this. I think it
Mm-hmm.
also reminds me of that Elizabeth Gilbert quote of, it's okay if you don't know where you're going and you just know that you don't want this, not this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, that resonates so deeply with what we've been through and this move
Right.
that we're making because it's not like we're out willy nilly spending, it's not like I've not gotten a bunch of new credit cards and I'm like out buying new clothes
Right.
and stuff. No,
Right.
but it just recognized like every day I am so present with having gratitude for what I have. I have food on the
Right.
table. I have a house. I have a roof over my head. I have my bills paid. That is
Yep.
amazing. And I
Yep.
now get to live this life that involves a lot more rest and a lot more
Yes.
being present and truly searching for what I want to do every day with this life.
And I think with that amount of space and energy, we can make a real impact on people. I
Yes.
think it's not to say that we didn't do good work in our real estate jobs. We both
No, we
did.
did.
That's
Yes.
not what I'm saying, but this
Yeah.
is meaning on a different level, you know?
Whole different level.
Yeah.
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 So can you share with
Kind of giddy.
it's a whole different level of happiness that I've never experienced before. So I
Right.
totally get that with you. That the giddy feeling, it's like every once in a while, it's on my calendar every Monday to take stock of where I've come from and how far I've come. And I really do have to do this because sometimes I forget I was not always like this. There were
Right.
times when I definitely felt depressed, when I felt a lack of freedom, a lack of an ability to express myself fully, and just really kind of own who I am,
Mm-hmm.
own my
Mm-hmm.
truth, and be okay with other people not understanding my truth, which is also
Yes.
part of being a reflector, is
Yep.
really
Yep.
not understanding that most people are not going to understand me. And that's a really
Yep.
difficult thing to embrace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I also want to share with people, because I think this is a really interesting tactic that you had during times of transition, that you said to me, hey, Mo, I'm going to borrow your belief in me right now.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you can describe that for people, because if you're listening, you can do this with any of your friends or family members. If you're in the midst of making a change and you need
Yeah.
some belief, like you need to understand that somebody believes in
Yeah.
you.
Well, I had at that point been following you for a while. You were in Everett, I was up in Bellingham, and I would
Mhm.
travel down for the monthly admin lunches that you were hosting. And that became such a tether for me. That was such a um, grounding space and a safe place for me to start realizing myself. Yeah.
Mhm.
And over time, you said things to me that I couldn't really say to myself yet, like about how much you believed in me or that I could do certain things or whatever. And I would just kind of smile and laugh inside because that Margaret Smith, she's so amazing. She thinks this, you know. But watching you, and the thing is, you are relentless. You really are in the best way
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
And it finally occurred to me when we were talking about what it might look like if I went out on my own from having left a team. So the very first time I started my own business. Um, and you could see it. You could see it clearly, and I could not. But what I did know is that it felt right in my body, even if I couldn't explain it. And what I was doing wasn't working.
Mhm.
I knew that I had a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for you, and that I have good judgment and good discernment about people. So if I
Mhm.
know all of those things, I felt like I had to trust in your judgment of me and your belief in me. And so in some twisted way, I guess, my borrowing your belief in me was a temporary way that I could leverage it and
Mhm.
go, well, I respect Margaret a whole lot, and she thinks this is something I could do. I'm going to think it's something I could do until I prove otherwise. And I have leveraged it a couple of times. You're right. But it works, it worked for
Mhm.
me. And I highly recommend it because if you ask for that sort of support, not only do you get it most often, but you also, have somebody who can be your cheerleader and who can
Mhm.
check in and see how things are going. Um, you don't have to feel like you're doing it all alone and you're making it all up as you
Mhm.
go.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
that, I think, is a story we tell ourselves.
yeah, there's something there about, and I've shared this with people often, like, and I tell it to my coaching clients all the time and people in BU that I don't say nice things just to say nice things. That was previous Margaret, who, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I said a lot of nice things. And yes, I did mean them. And there was some part behind that that was definitely wanting people to be happy and feel
Mm-hmm.
joy. And
Mm-hmm.
I recognize now too that that needed to include critical feedback. And
Yeah.
so that's definitely something that I have grown in so much over the years that now I'm able to tell people, like, when I tell you something, it is very much the truth. And I would not tell you that I thought you could succeed at your business if I didn't truly mean it. And
Right.
so having those people around you, which I feel like you are one of those people for me, who can really truly give their feedback in a way that's supportive,
Mm-hmm.
because getting critical feedback from someone who cares about you is very different from getting feedback from someone who
Uh-huh.
doesn't give a shit about you and might say it
Right.
in ways that are not appropriate. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
I think I really love this concept of borrowing belief because we don't always feel that belief ourselves, myself included. I don't wake up every day feeling like, hell yeah, I can do
Right.
anything.
Yes.
Some days I'm like, I can't do a damn thing today other than get up out of
Right.
bed and feed myself. Like, and that's very normal. I want to
Mm-hmm.
normalize that part of the journey is you're not waking up every day feeling amazing. A big part of this is learning how to get through when you're not feeling amazing, when you're not feeling like you want to do a
Exactly.
dang thing. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And it's really important while we're talking about this that we use good discernment and choose the right people to borrow that
Yes.
belief from.
Yes.
So much of my journey has been about feeling like I didn't know who I really was because in my family of origin, I had to be what was needed to make that dynamic work.
Mm-hmm.
When we were at, when we were at our religious functions, I had to have that mask on. And, I was 18 for 2 weeks and graduated high school. And my parents moved from Texas to Indiana. And I told them the week before they left that I wasn't going with them.
Wow.
And it's like sometimes you just have a knowing, and you just have to take your chance. And, I could not go to anybody in my family and get that kind of belief in me. It wouldn't have been supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really important that that not only do we choose the right people, but that we embrace this journey of seeing and recognizing ourselves, not just for the purpose of giving ourselves permission, but ultimately we're the only authority on ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
on our whole lives. And the time and energy that we put into trying to reach for standards or goals that society or our parents or even younger us placed
Mm-hmm.
on us is just, it's not healthy.
No.
It's important, I think, to ask ourselves on a regular basis, is this what I really think? Is this what I really want? Am I headed in the right direction?
Yes.
Just checking in,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we are all taught that sort of thing growing
Mm-mm.
up.
Mm-mm. Well, this blends perfectly into the next question I had for you, which is, can you describe what intuition is to you and how you use
Mm.
it?
Well, to me, intuition is the vehicle for which I can connect with my higher self and by extension with God. The very first thing that made the most sense to me about intuition was from May Mangles,
Mm-hmm.
who described to us at one of your retreats the difference between instinct and intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And instinct being that thing that hits in your stomach and makes you go, yeah, but, and is the excuse to kind of keep doing what you're doing. And
Yeah.
intuition being something that feels exciting and light and expansive. And you may not know how, but it's the thing that feels like, I'm not
Yes.
exactly sure what the word is, but if you're seeing this, you can see my face, like just the thing that makes you feel elation or,
Yeah.
and
It's kind of like how you and I talk about now when we meet up for lunch now, we have illegal
yeah,
lunch. And
that's
illegal
right.
lunch means like we meet on the most random day of the week, right in the middle of the day when we should be working,
Yes.
quote unquote be working. And we meet for as long as we want, and we have chocolate peanut butter milkshakes. Well, you do because I can't have them, but we have like whatever the hell we want to have. And it's that feeling of like, ooh, this feels
Yes.
so fun. Oh my God, I can't believe we get to do this.
And actually, those wind up being some of my most productive days in terms of like plotting and planning and thinking and that sort of thing. Yeah. Illegal lunch is my favorite.
Illegal lunch. I would also say too, have you ever felt like I recognize that yes, my intuition will sometimes say like, ooh, yes, that feels exciting, that feels good. And then other times, maybe when I'm getting an intuitive hit about someone, if it feels good, it also feels neutral. Which is like going back to what you were talking about is why it's so important to figure out what your baseline is. Like, what does it look like when you are at peace? Because when you're not at peace, then you can better recognize, ooh, this person, there's something about their energy that is not, I can't do. There's something about it that doesn't feel good. And so finding that baseline for yourself will help you to recognize your intuition because it talks to us through our body, which is why you and I, we love talking about all the things that we're learning in, energy healing and in that field has to do with recognizing how your body speaks to you. It's so powerful.
Well, and that's actually a thing that I'm working on right now. I love that you said baseline because it's absolutely correct. My baseline in my mind is different than what my baseline truly is because in some ways my brain is still hooked on the baseline that I had growing up. And that's not where I live any longer. So I have to consciously connect with what my baseline is now, which is the serenity I feel when I go stand in the sun or when I watch the blackberry leaves blowing in the wind from my porch.
You watch the squirrel eat from your squirrel feeder. That is
little picnic
so adorable.
With the umbrella. Yes, exactly. And I think as far as intuition goes, it's just this inner knowing. It's just a sense of, I can't put my finger on it, but this is it, and trusting that. For me, it's been, how does it work for me? It's, my intuition has shown up mostly for other people. My whole life, people have come to me for guidance or just to talk or whatever. And my intuition always shows up for them. Now, that's also being a human design projector. But where I'm really doing the work right now is to get very, very clear on all of this for me, myself. Because I feel that the most important thing I can give or offer to the world is taking all of this that I've experienced and turning it into something beautiful that I can give back. If I can hold up a mirror for somebody else, the way that mirrors have been held up for me, it would be an honor.
Best gift. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I would love to be able to return to somebody what has been given to me.
Yeah. So share with us a little bit more about what it is that you're incorporating and what you'll be offering with Butterfly Thistle, which is the name of your business, which I just freaking love, Butterfly Thistle.
Yeah. Well, and that was all, even naming it was all intuition. It became pretty clear to me that butterflies were a theme. At the retreat, I kept seeing butterflies. Right. There's a huge butterfly poster outside of my room. And
we went to the restaurant that had the butterfly name. Yeah.
Yep. And there was an angel communicator there who
that's right.
I had asked, he asked if we had questions. And I said, I just wonder if, are you here? Do you, I see this stuff happening for other people. I don't know that I feel it myself. And he said, well, we've been trying to send you butterflies all weekend.
I forgot about that part. Oh my God.
And it brought me to tears immediately, because then when I realized I'd been,
because there had been butterflies outside trying to reach you on the porch. They had been everywhere.
And I think I had been pointing them out for other people and going, I think that's for you.
Oh my God. I forgot he said that.
Yeah. And so anyway, that's where the butterfly came from. And thistle is a word I never use. And it just kind of popped into my mind one day. And I realized, oh yeah, butterflies are attracted to thistle, and thistle is hard and thorny. And it's, it can be seen as a symbol for bravery and rebirth in the butterfly. So to me, this is just about the stuff we butterflies consume to turn ourselves from caterpillars into butterflies, So what I'll be doing is, I'm offering Human Design 101 sessions at this point. If you are looking for a reading of your chart or to get familiar with how to start working with that energy, I would love to chat with you. I have 10 years in real estate and 6 of those running a team. 4 of them running my own team. So I would be thrilled to offer any sort of real estate operations or team coaching or support if there is a need. I'm going to be working with sound therapy, and I'm currently in certification courses for that. I'm also working with essential oils and herbs and EFT tapping and energy work within the body. So there are a number of ways that I'll be working with people. I think there's a very holistic approach that is appealing to me, because we're always all the parts of ourselves. And that's kind of the direction I'm headed. The reality is that I am diving into all sorts of things that I'm fascinated by. So it will be a growing business and a shifting offering that I have, but this is what I'm doing currently.
I love that. So people can just go to your website right now, butterflythistle.com, and sign up for a session with you. I highly recommend, if anybody's listening, if you know nothing about human design, you sign up for a human design session with Melissa, because she has a fantastic knowledge base already on human design and kind of just some things that you can do to actually shift your life right now based on your design. And as an example, I'll give you guys, as a reflector, when I found out I was a reflector and I had a session, one of the things the lady recommended was like, hey, go to bed a half an hour before you want to go to sleep so that your energy can essentially settle because I can be horizontal. And so I read a book or sometimes I'll flick through my phone, but reading a book is obviously the best. And that has helped so much. There's so many little things like that that can come out from finding what your human design is all about and how to integrate that more into your lifestyle. It's amazing.
Well, and it really does speak to what we've talked about some today, which is that being in the body.
Yes.
Because our minds are the perfect avenue for conditioning from the world and our experiences.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody who's listening has ever read the Four Agreements. If you haven't, you should. But, it really does get to the concept of, why do I believe this? And so much of our beliefs are just centered around the conditioning that we've been exposed to. And so learning how to work with those centers that are open versus defined, and, where you've been conditioned versus not, it's really so powerful and very eye-opening. An endless source of self-work.
Would you describe for people what energy healing is from your perspective? Because I've been looking I've realized that just through looking mostly on Instagram and on the general web, like there's not a lot of descriptions out there around energy healing. And I think that makes sense to me. Like it's just kind of newer for people who have no knowledge around energy healing and what it is. How would you describe it and what it is and what it does?
Gosh, there's so many. You're right. You're exactly right. It's hard to put a simple thing to it, but I'll try. To me, energy healing is, I refer to my own practice as energy alchemy, because I don't consider myself the healer. We are all our own healer, but I do hold the space and offer some guidance and encouragement and support around that healing so that we can facilitate it ourselves. But the reality is that we're just taking energy, which cannot be destroyed. It can only be shifted or changed. So we're taking that energy from being one thing and we're turning it into something else. And to me, that's energy alchemy. And yes, it shows up in a number of ways and has been used since the dawn of time. The Egyptians were using sound therapy. The Aboriginals had the didgeridoo that has been around for 40,000 years. Like that is a form of energy healing. So I suppose it is the actual act of what I mean when I say we're all just walking each other home, because you're generally looking to someone else for support in shifting. And I guess I could probably just let the sentence stay there, because there's a number of directions it could go, and it does. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's just an energetic block. But I will explore and use any medium or modality for shifting it. I'm well versed in and have a passion for crystals. Anything to do really with the natural world, being outside. All of it. I think that we have gotten really wrapped up in technology and everything that's modern, and that there's something very real and primitive and beautiful about getting back to some very basic roots.
Yeah, for those of you that are listening, there's another thing I like to share with people too that sometimes helps, which is when you think about emotions like joy, grief, resentment, anger, if you imagine that they're all shapes, like they're a circle or they're a square or they're a triangle, they actually have a shape and can get stuck in different parts of your body, which can then create illnesses, which can show up physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, like all these different ways. And so the way that I think of it is we're all conduits. We all, like you said, have the ability to heal ourselves and to heal others. And so when you open yourself up to that energy, you can actually guide the energy from the divine, from outside of yourself, through yourself, and to the person that you're guiding the energy towards. And that energy carries a frequency. And the frequency is what can shift and move the shapes that are stuck in your body.
Exactly.
And so like, that's why I love that you're getting into sound healing, because sound, oh my gosh, I believe is like really sound and energy healing and all these different modalities are at the forefront of what's going to heal so much of the world. of what's been going on. This kind of healing, like you said, has been around for centuries, and we're finally starting to allow ourselves to be curious and look into it
Yes.
and spread that message. And it's just amazing to watch.
Yep.
I'm popping in for a moment to let you know that if you're interested in working with me one-on-one in a small group, or you'd like to attend one of my upcoming retreats, please reach out or add yourself to my email list. You can go to iloveitwhen.org and scroll to the bottom where you'll see there's a spot to sign up. I also love to speak, teach, and create experiences for small, medium, or large-size companies. If you know someone that I should know, please connect us. I'm looking to utilize I Love It When to create global change, and that will require collaborating with all of you. You're all so much more powerful than you realize. Remind yourself of that today. Well, I could literally talk to you forever, which I knew would be the case. I knew this would be the case. So for anybody listening, I want you to go to her website, butterflythistle.com, and sign up for a session with Melissa. And we're going to end today by reading a couple of poems, because for those of you that knew us during this time at the beginning of COVID, Melissa did some readings with me. It was fun and funny and also serious through Operation Tungsten Light, which was a group that I started at the beginning of COVID to keep everybody kind of occupied and doing something with our time that we all of a sudden had. And so Melissa and I've told Melissa this for years, that I want her to either co-host a podcast with me or do something on her own, because her voice, which you guys is also a part of sound healing, our voices all carry a frequency that can heal. And I believe Melissa definitely has that frequency. So,
You're so nice, Margaret.
We have two poems. One is called Our Greatest Fear by Marianne Williamson, and the other one is Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. So, Melissa, which one would you like to read?
You know what? I'll take Wild Geese.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
do you want to go first? Yeah, do it.
Doesn't matter to me. All right. Wild geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. That's by Mary Oliver.
I love that. I don't think I knew about that poem until you mentioned it.
It touches me really deep in my core every time.
Beautiful. All right, Our Greatest Fear by Marianne Williamson. This is one of my favorites. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your plain small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. That's a beautiful note to end on.
I love it.
All right, and Melissa, I always like to end each episode with your favorite I love it when for your life right now. So what is yours?
Okay. I love it when I get the chance to surrender to what makes me feel joyful and come alive.
Well, thank you so much for taking the leap and stepping outside your comfort zone and sharing so much of your story. I'm excited to have you back in the future and continue to dive even deeper into what you're into now. It's exciting.
Well, thank you very much, Margaret. I appreciate the opportunity. I love being here.